Welcome to Five on the Floor, a Miami Heat and NBA podcast from Ethan Skolnick with Alphonse Sidney, aka Alf954. Brought to you by the 5 Reasons Sports Network.
Welcome in the latest episode of the Five on the Floor podcast on the 5 Reasons Sports Network. Make sure to check out our website. That's at 5reasonsports.com. That's spelled out, the number 5, F-I-V-E. Also check out the Twitter account at 5 Reasons Sports. That is not spelled out, nor is the account on Instagram. Check out the other podcasts in our network. Of course, 3 yards per carry. They've already moved on to Tua season. They're breaking down quarterbacks. Nobody else gave you this. Nobody in this market gave you this. Simon Clancy of 3 yards per carry sat down with Tua. I don't try to pronounce the last name. Sat down with Tua and got his thoughts about tanking, got his thoughts sort of indicating that he's probably coming out of school, which I know has been a bit of a question. And he actually even said on there, it was actually for an interview that Simon did with his other project, which is Gridiron Magazine, which is, I believe it's out now or coming out. And actually Tua said that the Alabama players in the huddle, they go rock, paper, scissors to decide who's going to score the next touchdown. So, yeah, he'd help the Dolphins. They have, 1 touchdown all year. Anyway, check out all the other podcasts. Mark Your Territory, of course, on wrestling, Out for the Count on boxing. Goldie on Ice is coming back on the Panthers. And Fish Tank this week. Well, they had Bobby Monica last week and then Randall Hill the week after that. So get your Dolphins nostalgia when you want better days. But today we're going to talk about the Heat. I've got Alphonse Sidney with me. I've got Alex Toledo. We're going to get right to it right after I introduce you to BetDSI.com. Check them out, BetDSI.com. Use the promo code 5101. That's F-I-V-E 101. Make sure you place all your bets before this weekend. The Dolphins, right now, I believe they're 15-point underdogs, I think. They only came relatively close to covering the spread last week, didn't the first 2 weeks, but obviously double-digit underdogs again, and this time at home against a Chargers team that's going to have Melvin Gordon back. So it gets even easier for the Dolphins to tank. Also, go on there and bet the futures on the Heat. 43.5 is the number right now, and I like the over. All right, so 5101, betdsi.com. If you put in 5101, you get a little bit of a bonus there, which helps out quite a bit.
Welcome to Five on the Floor, a Miami Heat and NBA podcast from Ethan Skolnick with Alphonse Sidney, aka Alf954. Brought to you by the 5 Reasons Sports Network.
All right, so I'm going to get to Alf and Alex here. We're going to get right to it. Alex was with me at the Jimmy Butler press conference today. Pat Riley, of course, introduced him. No Eric Spoelstra today, but got plenty from Jimmy, plenty from Pat. After the fact, and Jimmy did some one-on-ones with some of the TV guys. We got Media Day coming up Monday. We got training camp Tuesday through Saturday up in West Palm at Kaiser University. Alex, give me your impression. What stuck out to you today most about the Jimmy Butler press conference?
Well, first things first, I want to say that not only on the court but off the court too in these pressers, Jimmy Butler is extraordinary at playing defense. He was not having, some of these questions were like trying to hit at him having a bad attitude or calling him a bad person. He kept saying the same thing. Oh, I'm not an asshole. I'm just somebody who works really hard. And I think that's that's an exact move he should have played. I love kind of the narrative that he gave to all of this, where he's just embracing all the Heat culture stuff. He's embracing being underdogs, embracing the young guys. Had them all, or not all. He had a few of those guys with him today at 4:30 in the morning at the Heat facility getting worked on in the training facility, and then, playing basketball. I think all of it is just kind of like it's a extraordinary entrance with all the narratives that's comes with Jimmy Butler.
Alf, I know you follow it on Twitter and how things were playing out. You actually had to work today, which is the only reason you weren't there. You have a real job, unlike me. I mean, I polled this afterwards and gave 3 options. How do you assess the Jimmy Butler presser? And the options were perfect, pretty good, or not impressed. It's about 80% perfect right now and about 15% pretty good. I thought, and I want to get to what you thought the thoughts were on Twitter and other places. I honestly thought this was the best introduction that has happened with the Heat in a long, long time. I thought he was pitch perfect on this. I was just curious, and I'll get to my reasons why in a second, but I was curious your impressions just following it on social.
Well, yeah, it was pitch perfect because there was no awkwardness. There was in the past, some of these press conferences has been awkwardness, or there's been a guy maybe not completely open to discussing things or discussing the past. And I just want to move forward. Jimmy was just, I know Alex said, yeah, he was playing defense, but he did seem pretty open to talking about things. And overall, the tone of the press conference was like ear porn for Heat fans. It was culture, 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 hard work, grind, 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 all the things that the Heat fan has wrapped himself around or herself around for the last few years when there wasn't necessarily a star to hang on to. All that grit, the grind, the culture stuff, the memes of us snorting culture, like all of that came out in that press conference today. So it was almost like it was the perfect press conference for Heat fans. It gave you the new star, but it also validated the last 4 years of, second round, first round playoff exits and missing the playoffs altogether. So it was just, it struck the perfect tone. And one of the biggest things I really liked was just how Jimmy really portrayed the rest of his teammates. Like, yeah, guys, I'm tough, but these guys are tough as hell too, and we're going to get along great. So it really it kind of just put everything together and made you really excited for the season.
Yeah, it's what you said before, right? There ain't no bitch in the Miami Heat. You said that on a previous podcast.
I as hell did. I feel like Jimmy read that.
Well, we need it on a T-shirt. There's another quote from him we need on a T-shirt. Brother, we're going to cover Jimmy here, and then after the break, we'll get to Riley's presser. But you mentioned the other players. I asked him the question specifically about the particular players he's been working with, and I have felt that there's been a point to it. He works out with Tyler Herro up in Chicago, and it is clear.
Happy birthday, Ethan.
To me. No. Well, right, exactly. Oh yeah, I know, because he said happy birthday to Bam. But Tyler Herro, he loves that kid. Like, it's just obvious that cockiness that Tyler Herro has. And then Justice is another guy. They take the photo together, which was a little bit us against the world. And, I know Riley said today, we'll get to Riley later, but I know Riley didn't seem thrilled with Justice coming out and saying he wanted to be the starting point guard. One of the things that Jimmy said about Justice was he doesn't back down from anybody. And then, of course, as he said, he sent, as Bam told me on the podcast, he kind of, sent some birthday wishes on Bam's birthday, and Bam was surprised. I think there is a point to this from Jimmy. I think, he wants to be a leader of a team, and I also think he wants to change the reputation that he's had in the 3 previous places. And I think what we're going to find is that environment is everything. And something I did ask Pat a little bit later is that there are things that other organizations don't like about certain players that you guys embrace, and the other players on this team embrace, because they're the type of players who would be able to deal with Jimmy's shit. And I think Jimmy loves that already.
You could tell even that little clip that the Heat put out.
Yeah.
You could tell Jimmy just felt like Jimmy was just in his element, man. Like, he's
right.
Talking trash. Tyler talks trash. We've seen what Justice Winslow will say to somebody else in the middle of a heated playoff game.
Ben Simmons, right?
Ben Simmons,
right?
And and apparently Bam talks a lot of shit too, because that might have it was a rumor that's part of the reason that he wasn't on the Olympic team. Mm-hmm. So you have a lot of guys with chips on their shoulder who want to prove something, and I think Jimmy was also taking a shot at his past teammates.
Yes.
The past organizations, and saying, guys, it's not me, it's you. Because I'm over here and we're good. So I think he took this opportunity to lay some things to rest, but also to say, hey guys, yes, this is my personality, but in the right place, it's actually welcome. Like you said, it's welcome. It's not shunned.
Yeah, I think a lot of that was a cat, to be honest. I think that a lot of it was at Karl Anthony Towns, because he had that reputation for not being able to take a lot, as does Wiggins, to be honest. And so I do think Jimmy was kind of saying, like you said, I'm in my element now. I'm with my people now. This is where I always should have been. And I've said this repeatedly, and we got into this on the 305 Live, which you guys should check out on the Twitter feed, because we're giving away a Jimmy Butler jersey there, courtesy of Seltzer Mayberg. But I think a lot of this is the Dwayne thing. Like, Dwayne, this organization means too much to Dwayne, that if Dwayne didn't think this was a good fit, he wouldn't have pushed it on either party, because Jimmy means too much to him. So Dwayne obviously identified that Dwayne and Jimmy might have different personalities, and we covered that on the podcast with Vinny Goodwill, which I also recommend you listen to that. But Dwayne knows Jimmy, and Dwayne knows Riley. And it just looked to me like with the two of them together, like this is the happiest I've seen Pat look in forever. Because it's like he got himself on the team, basically. And I think to impose some of this stuff. Now, Alex, I want to go to you on this, on some of the other things that Jimmy kind of got into in terms of play, right? Because a lot of what we're talking about with Jimmy is personality. And, here we have Pat Riley declared him a top 10 player in the league today. I don't know that everybody would agree with that, but we've seen him ranked anywhere between 11 and 21, when some of these outlets do it. But in terms of some of the things Jimmy talked about what he wants to get accomplished here, what did you take from that?
So, I was very encouraged by it just because all he talks about is winning, which is, that's what everybody says when the season is starting. Everybody wants to win. It's obvious. But with Jimmy, the words, it follows a reputation where he's all about putting the work in. And it's the same kind of stuff you hear from the Heat organization about always looking to put forth the most competitive product, always trying to win in the short term. I thought it was very encouraging overall.
And Alf, sorry about that.
I guess you're not gonna get a lot of on the court stuff at an introductory press conference. So I wasn't expecting a lot of that. But he did say the right things when it came to winning. Not like, hey, we're trying to build something here, or we're trying to mesh together. It was about where we want to win, and we want to win right now. And I think that's the mentality of the franchise, which is why they brought him in.
Well, I think the only thing he kind of rebelled against a little bit today, the only place, and when we had John Krasinski on, and also a couple of the other guys we had on who talked about Jimmy will go back at you on a question. And I don't think he did a lot of that today, but he did once. There was one question asked which implied that Jimmy wanted to be the man. And that's the only place I thought that he pushed back a little bit, because I don't think he wants that reputation that he was kind of clearing other players out of the way. I think he wants to be the guy who guides the other players on the team, and I think he's going to want the big shots. But I also don't think that he necessarily feels like he needs to be the best player on the team all the time. And I thought one of the things that Riley said that was interesting is that, he doesn't want Jimmy to get too caught up in leading. And he told a story. I think actually this was in response to a question I asked that was totally separate from this. But he told a story about a scrimmage from the other day. And Jimmy, basically we're having a conversation about how Jimmy was trying to set everybody else up, and that Pat sometimes wants him to be the guy. Like he wants him to have the dog in him and, go to the basket and attack. And if they need to score 40, he scores 40. And I thought the other thing that came out of this was Jimmy kept saying, whatever Spo wants me to do, whatever Spo wants me to do. I think we haven't seen it yet because Spo wasn't there today. But I think what we're going to see starting Monday is a real kinship between the two of them. I think Spo is the best coach that he's ever had. No offense to Tibbs. Certainly better than a couple of the others that he's had. I think that there's going to be a real connection there, because I think that Eric has been waiting to coach a guy like this, for a while, really since, Dwayne started to decline. So a couple other things here. You talk about ear porn for Heat fans, which I think is how I'm going to lead this episode. Maybe that's how I title it. The quote that's getting the most attention that I threw on Twitter was, I want the Miami Heat to be hated.
Yes.
To me, guys, when he said that, it's like, all right, he's part of the family now, because that's also what's been missing. Heat fans hate being irrelevant. And It's like you're shouting into the wind, right? It's like the Simpsons, old man shouting at cloud. I feel like that's what Heat fans have been doing the past 5 years. And now I think people are going to genuinely dislike the Heat again, and I think that's positive.
That was the gem of the press conference by far. It wasn't even close. That was the one where as soon as he said it, I'm like, oh, this is going to blow up. People absolutely do miss being hated. I could speak on behalf of all of Heat Twitter. I know Alf can as president of Heat Twitter, and I love it. I know all of Heat Twitter loves it.
And what's dope about it? It's genuine, right? I feel like the last time the Heat had the main attraction as someone who did not mind being feared and hated, probably Alonzo Mourning. Because Dwayne was not feared and hated.
No,
Dwayne was loved. LeBron tried to be feared and hated, but he didn't like it. He
wasn't comfortable with it.
No, this is going to be a guy who, he wants to be hated. He's okay being hated. He's comfortable in his own skin. And really, and I love Dwayne, and Dwayne is the Miami Heat, but this is probably the first star player since Alonzo Mourning that personality up and down fit the Heat culture in this way?
Well, I think that was the great paradox of the big three teams, is that they were likable if you knew them.
Yes.
I mean, Jimmy can be unlikable. Like, that's just part of the deal here. But like, they were likable. Like, I've always told people that was the best locker room I've ever covered. It was the smartest group of guys. I mean,
Smart, nice, funny.
How do you dislike Mike Miller? How do you dislike Chris Bosh? Like, I understand
Ray
Allen.
Ray Allen was
Ray has an edge, but Ray's also a really, really bright dude. I mean, sometimes Ray thinks he's the smartest guy in every room, and that can rub some people the wrong way. And then the Boston thing with them spelling traitor wrong. But like, but Ray is a smart guy who does. I greatly admire a lot of the things that Ray has done post career and in the community and what he believes in.
But I mean, James Jones, Joel Anthony,
good guys, like all of them. Good. There was not a bad guy in that room. Rio's a good guy. Like there was. I mean, and LeBron. I hate to tell people because I know I had a relationship. Is a good guy, and he cares what people think. And so and UD. I mean, with all the facade about UD, you won't find a better human in sports. So, like, it was a totally ridiculous caricature of that team made by lazy national media people who were jealous because most of them based up in the Northeast or LA. Okay, more jealous from the Northeast than LA. But and they looked
Coastal
at us
elites.
An elite. Well, they looked the coastal. Well, yeah, right, exactly. Well, we're coastal elite too. But they looked at Miami as a place that didn't deserve that team from the very beginning, and so they were trained to basically hate us and declare everybody villains. And there was nobody on that team who was comfortable being a villain. The only guy who was comfortable, I thought, was Eddie House, and he was gone after 1 year. I mean, he's the guy who said to me middle fingers to the haters. Rio tried that, but Rio is too good a dude deep down to be really.
I mean, and I know UD is a good dude, but I think he's probably okay with being the villain.
I think he'll like it. I think he and Jimmy are going to be great. Well, when I had UD on the pod, like, he said it flat out, and I think it came across today. Like, everything UD said was right as usual. He said basically that, Jimmy Butler. He's like, the only problem I've ever heard about Jimmy Butler is he wants his players to play hard. He wants his teammates to play hard. And I thought that was the other. You mentioned. I thought the best quote was the haters quote. The other quote was, basically, I love this game. I love to play. I love to work, and I don't understand when other guys don't.
And when he said that it's not hard to get guys on this team to come to work out with you. Like, I thought that was impactful, right? Because which is another shot at his old teams and old franchises. He's with a bunch of guys right now that want to get in the gym. They want to wake up early. They want to bust their ass. Like, listen, man, this team might not score 115 points a game. It might not be a 1 seed, but I think they're going to be fun as hell to watch, especially for a Heat fan base that has gotten a chip on its shoulder the last few years and wants to see, grinded out, really competitive basketball. I think we've gotten to the point that, this is what the Miami Heat is. We're not worried about the flash anymore. Right. We're more worried about the substance. And this is a team full of substance, if nothing else.
Yeah, I think what we've seen is that I think the Heat fan accepts what it is and what this franchise is. And I can mock the culture thing, and I got a little slap in the face on it today because Jimmy kept mentioning it. But to me, my whole point on culture all along has been culture is fine when you have the talent who buy into it. But culture to get you, no offense, but to get Tyler Johnson or Rodney Magruder to 25 minutes a game, when they weren't supposed to be NBA players, that's nice for back of the rotation players. But that ultimately, culture only gets you so far. They finally have a player who can take, because Jimmy's whole story is culture. Like, forget the Heat thing. He was the 30th pick in the draft. We've done this story before on the pod.
You could go before that too. From when he was
recruited. Yeah, he wasn't recruited, Alex. Like,
even his lifestyle. I mean, the way that he came up, like, as a person, growing up as a kid, like, all the stories around him, it's like, it embodies that. He's that's all he's ever known is obstacles.
Well, and I think, Alex, that's why some people turned against him, because a lot of the media wrote that story, right? They wrote this overcoming obstacles. He never should have been here from a family perspective, from a talent perspective, from being overlooked. Never should have been in this position. And then all of a sudden, he became a star kind of out of nowhere. Like, the Bulls were not anticipating him being a star. He wasn't a starter on the team that, faced the Heat, and he didn't play very much. So, that he was never supposed to be here. And then all of a sudden, he got this chip on his shoulder, and I think people perceived it as, oh, he's forgotten where he came from. And I don't think that's the case at all. I think he remembers exactly where he came from. And I think his attitude about it is like, why the bleep, okay, is this guy not working as hard as me when I've come out of that, sort of environment and I've made it to this point and I know how it works for me, and why is this guy? And I can see him looking at Karl Anthony Towns, and I know we had John Krasinski on. He said the relationship was maybe not as bad as portrayed, but I can see him looking at Karl Anthony. Karl Anthony Towns has all the talent in the world. He's just a naturally gifted player.
All the talent, all the physical tools, number one pick.
Draft pick. Right. He could do everything. Shoot inside, outside. Doesn't compete defensively. Doesn't compete possession to possession. Seems to get his feelings hurt a lot. And if you're Jimmy, like, what you're looking at that guy, and you're like, if I had that talent, what would I be? And so I think that's where the frustration, and I bet you there's going to be more stuff that comes out, guys, about Philly, about what he really thought of Embiid and Simmons. I think that stuff's going to start to come out.
And Ethan, who on this team is a number one draft pick?
You know what I mean? Who was the first? Let's go over it. Dion was third overall.
And Dion has a chip on his shoulder, like
fourth. You're right. You're fourth.
Like few top 5 picks you'll see.
Right. Well, everybody thought he shouldn't have gone that high, but yeah, he was fourth. Let's see. Myers Leonard was a late first. Is that right? I believe.
Yeah, he definitely wasn't in the top 10.
Olynyk was mid first, right? He was somewhere. It
was like 13, something like that.
Somewhere in the teens. Derrick Jones Jr. was not. Justice was 10th, as we know. Bam was 13th, right?
Myers was 11th.
Myers a little higher than I thought. So Bam was 30th. So mostly outside the top 10 , with the exception of Dion.
You don't have a bunch of silver spoon guys on this team. You have a bunch of guys who had to work to get to where they are, and they're still working. I mean, Bam Adebayo, Colin Cowherd didn't know his name last year.
Right. Joy Taylor had to correct him. Yeah.
Got kicked off the Olympic team. Justice Winslow couldn't make an Olympic team that finished 7th in the world.
Right.
Like, you got to think that they look at this shit and they're pissed off.
Well, that's why I've said this is give Eric Spoelstra an uncluttered roster with guys who want to defend and are individually motivated and see what happens. And that's why I'm going over. I just think you had a situation. Plus, you're to the point now where the bad contracts, and Alf, you've talked about this a lot in terms of the context of them getting the cap free and being able to get another star. But I'm going to talk about this in the context of guys being motivated. You've got a bunch of guys who you had early stage contracts with those guys where there was no reason to be motivated. James Johnson, Dion Waiters. Well, now we've turned the corner, right? I mean, we're at hump day, okay? Like, you can see the end of the week. Like, those contracts are going to expire soon. And so those guys need to work, and they both came to camp. It appears Dion looks great, like in terms of what you at least see on, with the photos with Jimmy and everything else. So they've gotten to the point now where they've turned the corner on this, and now they're motivated. Okay, you've got Dragic and Olynyk were basically traded this offseason. They're motivated. Dragic is in the last year of his deal. You mentioned.
Don't forget Derrick Jones Jr.
Derrick Jones Jr., right? he needs to get paid too, and he was let go by the worst franchise in the West. Okay,
almost traded.
Also almost traded to Dallas, right? So he's in that mix also. Tyler Herro is drafted to Miami, and everybody is like, what the bleep? Why did they just draft Tyler Herro? There's nobody on this team that doesn't have a reason to be motivated this year.
And God, does Jimmy love Tyler?
Right. Oh my God. Yeah. No, I mean, he does. And I that's what I've said on this pod. Like, the peers seem to love Tyler, which I'm going to take. That to me means more than a scout. So we're going to get into Pat Riley when we come back. We got a big event coming up, so I'm going to tell you about it.
All right. There are a lot of events in South Florida that you got to go to. But if you can only pick one.
Yeah, come on now.
This is the one. I'm with Jason Jackson. You know him as the Jax Show. The third year of this event. I don't want to disparage the guys that you roasted before.
You shouldn't.
But there's 1-3.
Yeah.
So what do you got going on?
Jax Celebrity Roast Volume 3, 4-3. Like, this was always in the making, all the way back to when we started in 2016 with Irie first and then Jason Taylor. But on October 12th at One Hotel, South Beach, we were roasting Dwayne Wade. We've got Chris Spencer, Razor Davis, Jimmy Butler on the podium, as well as Udonis Haslem. I'm giving you a breaking story. It's not fully confirmed, but we'll all be together on October 12th. Everybody can get tickets at jaxcelebrityroast.com. Do not bring your mother, your faith healer, or your kids.
Sounds like a plan. So where do they go again? Where do they get it?
jaxcelebrityroast.com. Buy your tickets now. There aren't many left.
All right, Ethan Skolnick back here on the Five on the Floor podcast with Alex Toledo and also Alphonse Sidney. Now, let's get to Pat Riley. So just so the dynamics, Alex and I were there today. Jimmy met with the media, general press conference, about 20, 25 minutes. Then there was a bit of a break. Pat went off to the side to talk to Andy and Adam Simon and some others. And Jimmy went and did some one-on-ones with the TV guys. I really recommend. I'm a big fan of all the TV guys down here, but check out Clay Ferraro's feed. I think is he Clay WPLG? Is that right, Alf? I think on Twitter.
Yeah.
So
Clay
check
WPLG.
check that out. He did some really fun stuff with Jimmy today about all the gifs and the memes and all that good stuff. So check that out. So Jimmy did some one-on-ones. He's going to be available again on Monday. And then Riley came out. And my general thought on Riley always starts with his mood. Like, he's had some pressers lately where he has been in a bad mood.
Ornery?
Yeah. And it doesn't come off well for him because when he does that, it comes off of like.
It's like, why are you questioning me?
Well, yeah, but it's also, okay, and I don't want to be ageist here, okay, at this point. But, Pat's in his mid-70s. And like I said, sort of old man screaming at cloud. Like, that's no, but that's a little bit how a couple of his pressers have come off. Like when he's gone after, I think he went after Ira and Barry about, not today, but he touched on it today. He always does. But like the James Johnson, Deion Waiters contracts, one of the more recent press conferences, he kind of went off on both of them about that. And
it's funny because he's not letting that go.
No, he won't. But at that, it wasn't as bad today because he's through it, most of it.
But it did come up kind of like out of nowhere. Did anybody even bring that up as a question?
No, I don't think so. It's on his mind. But he was implying in a previous press conference that like it didn't matter how much they made because and of course it does because it affected the salary cap. But he also said in a previous press conference, right, there are obstacles, but there are no obstacles, and that quote was true. In fact, mark that one down.
We laughed at it.
We laughed at it, but Smoot needs to do a T-shirt for that one too, actually. But I thought today, it's like the sunlight came in, like he was. Alex, am I right? Like he was happy.
Oh, shining, right? Shining. He came in
sat
and
up
was
there for 3 hours. Like
he came in and him and Jimmy, but the swagger combined between the both of them as they strut in to get onto that stage. Oh my God, it was blowing me away.
I thought, Alex, that he was going to literally take the rings that he dropped on the table, supposedly, for LeBron and everybody else. I thought he was
He kept saying his name. He kept saying, this is Jimmy Butler, guys. I don't call him Jimmy.
It was like, how the fuck did we get this guy? I had no cap space. He even took a shot at the Dolphins.
He kept referring to how many times he's gotten stars. He's like, oh, people of this caliber. And,
right. He had to remind us of that. Right. I thought he was literally going to take the rings and, like, drop them in front of Ira or Barry. Like,
much swagger.
Right. And that's kind of what we can get into the specifics of this. I mean, the Winslow Dragic comments were interesting. I still don't believe necessarily that Goran's going to be the starting point guard.
Wait, why? I need to hear the shot at the Dolphins. I missed that.
Oh, it was great. It was backhanded. I don't want the Dolphins are very sensitive with me right now, so I don't want to go too far. They think that that tanking shirt on the website is about them. It's not. It's about
the one that was made before they started tanking.
Right, okay. It's about the Sixers, but yeah, and that was the whole point of it.
It goes directly after the Sixers slogan from when they were tanking.
Right. So I don't want, but basically, Cameron Wolf was there today, and Cameron's a very good reporter who moved down here about a year ago to cover the Dolphins, and he covers the Dolphins. And so Cameron asked a question, and Pat has gotten big at mentioning people's names when they ask questions. So he does it with Tim Reynolds, and he does it with Ira and Barry, and did it with me today. He typically, the guys he's known for a long time. So he did it with so Cameron, he goes, Cameron Wolf, or so he said, don't you cover the Dolphins? Which I guess Pat's reading Dolphins coverage on ESPN.com. I was not aware. And then he goes, Cameron. And so it was just funny because it was just the way, and then because there was like laughter in the room. And I don't know if the laughter was because Pat was following the Dolphins on ESPN.com or the laughter is because
that was random.
It was random, right?
I didn't think about that as a shot towards the Dolphins, but now that you mention it, it is kind of funny, isn't it? It could be interpreted as kind of like, oh yeah, there's nothing really going on interesting over there.
Right. I don't think that's how he meant it, but I think the laughter afterwards. And I don't want to.
He might have meant that. He might not have done it on purpose, but that's probably what he meant. Like, isn't there something for you to be doing?
Especially in the cadence that he says it.
Right. And I don't want to. I mean, again, 75% of our network likes what the Dolphins are doing, so I don't know why they're sensitive about us. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. But Dragic and Winslow, I thought that was interesting. Him talking about fining or Justice needs to do 100 Hail Marys or something like that. Like
Oh my
clearly,
God.
clearly they didn't like the comment. Alf, you and I both liked the comment because we want Justice to be that, right? We want him to be, but I can understand they've been very careful about Goran's feelings all off season. And I think they want it to happen organically. I think they just want it to happen. I don't think they want it to feel forced.
Especially after Goran almost got dealt.
Right.
Yeah, what I want to know is who's they, right? Like who's they are worried about Goran's feelings. Like who exactly is they, right? Because is there a difference between is there a difference between the way Spo thinks and the way Pat thinks? Because
I don't know who thinks I don't know how they evaluate him. I don't know if they see him as a point guard or not. It seemed like Spo last year, made the point when Goran went out, he made the point that Justice was our point guard going forward, but it was never supposed to be permanent, right? It's just he was trying to make the case, say, look, I'm putting the ball in his hands for now, right?
Even when Goran came back, Justice stayed in the starting position. He
did, and Goran played great off the bench. And you and I think we all agree that's Goran is. It's not a demotion for Goran. He'd be the best. He'd be one of the best reserves in the league,
especially since he'd still be getting around the same minutes per game. No, probably
absolutely
25, 27, 28.
Yeah, which is where he should be at this stage. Like if he wants to get another contract after this one that's of any significance in terms of.
Man, I would love to see him 18 to 22 minutes a game. I think that would just be peak Max Goran Dragic, explosive, but. I guess that's really what I guess people get upset about what Riley says when it comes to Justice and when it comes to the point guard position and Goran Dragic. But I think at the end of the day, what really matters is what happens on the court. I think people still get caught up in the idea that Pat is coaching the team. Like, can we give Spoke some credit? Like,
well, he did though. But he did when it came to Justice. Like he was very explicit about that, where he said, Spo's done an incredible job of getting this 19-year-old that we first got to develop in all these different ways. I'm nervous about the whole Swiss Army thing after what we just witnessed with the Dolphins and Minka Fitzpatrick.
I was actually sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, because look, the way that. I mean, there's a lot of similarities between Minka and Justice, if you think about it. They both came from elite, arguably the best programs in their respective, sports, right? Okay, Duke and Alabama. They both came here, where it was believed that they were leaders, to a certain, more Minka than Justice, but that they were leaders and they were smart, okay? Both of them, but probably more Justice than Minka. They, and what they were touted with, both of them slipped in the draft, and both of them, it was touted that they could do multiple things. And so you had Minka completely reject that, right? Although I think it was really about just getting the hell out of Dave. But because he seems to be embracing it with Pittsburgh. And he didn't play that well. Stats aside, he didn't play that well in the first game if you really watch what the Pittsburgh writers were saying. But Justice has seemed to embrace it, but then kind of did a 180 on it. And I think so, I want to be the point guard. And I think that's the only sort of red flag for me. Not that Justice is the type he's going to get unhappy, but we just kind of witnessed this with Minka. So I'm wondering how the Heat's going to handle this if they're throwing Justice in a bunch of spots that he really doesn't want to be in.
See, so I was actually thinking about that because it does kind of follow in the theme that the Heat have been operating in, something that we talked about a couple episodes ago, is that they're kind of all on this time frame, right? Where like they're saying all of these things now because Pat kind of went out of his way to almost shut that down a little bit while also giving a lot of love and respect to Justice. He was kind of like, he said the whole comment about finding Justice 50,000 and giving it to Goran, which made everybody laugh in the room, which I'm still not sure if it's true or not. And then you also got him saying like, oh, Goran is the incumbent starting point guard. You got him saying that a couple months ago. It seems like there's a lot of politicking going on, but I wouldn't be surprised if by January Justice is a starting point guard. And then another thing I think it kind of points to is that they're thinking about using Justice as a starting wing and then as probably a point guard off the bench. You know what I'm saying? Like a lot of staggering him with the bench guys. And I think we're going to see a lot of that before he eventually turns into a starting point guard.
Yeah, I think all that's nonsense, man. Not saying that what you think is nonsense. And if it happens, it happens. I just think they shouldn't do it. It's just, to me, and I was on the Heat Beat podcast. I don't know. I've done so many freaking podcasts this week. But I was on the Heat Beat podcast, and Gianni was like, well, maybe he's more like an Andre Iguodala. And I lost it. Like, I'm just sick of it. Justice Winslow is a point guard. His best position is at point guard. The best basketball the Heat played last year is when Justice started at point guard. I don't understand why we keep playing these games. Like, yes, on defense, he's a Swiss Army knife. He can guard 1 through 5. But on offense, give him the ball in his hands and let him initiate the offense. The Heat play better when he does that. I just don't understand what is so hard for everyone to wrap their heads around. They do not have a point guard on that team that fits better with Jimmy Butler than Justice Winslow. And if that's the case, Justice Winslow should start because everything should be about Jimmy Butler. I love Goran Dragic, but listen, give him the ball for 18 to 20 minutes off the bench with everybody out of his way and let him go to work. I don't even see why this is hard.
Well, it's not. Although I think Pat, they keep trying to move away from the term, right? They're trying to move away from the term point guard. Even Jimmy said it. Jimmy said, that there's no such thing really as a point guard these days. I don't think that's true. I mean, there are more ball handlers on the floor now, and it's the expectation that 2s and 3s and even 4s are supposed to be able to handle ball. But most of the elite teams in the league, I mean, Steph Curry is a point guard, right? Like, Kyle Lowry is a point guard. Kyrie Irving, they're scoring point guards, yes, but but most of these teams identify who Kemba Walker is a point guard. Like, the ball is in their hands. They're going to make plays with it. And I think what we're saying is it's not so much like calling Justice a point guard. It's making sure he's not standing in the corner. That's the issue here, and I just feel.
But I just think also for the kid's confidence, call him a point guard.
Well, if he wants to be called, but I think again, I think they're being sensitive. You say who's they? I don't know, but it seems to be organizationally. Like they're being sensitive to the idea that Goran came in. He referred to Goran as an all-star again today. I feel like they're trying. And look, Goran missed a lot of time last year, and I think the time off for him is going to be good. And I love Goran Dragic, and you do too. I mean, this is not about Goran Dragic, but this is the one thing they seem to be resisting. We only got a couple minutes left here, so I just want to get to sort of a general feeling here about Alex, what Pat said about Jimmy being sort of the starter piece, right? Like he called him a star, he called him a top 10 player. We can argue about that, but he called him a top 10 player. But he made it damn clear that they're looking for other opportunities, and they're here to win, and they're here to win big. And I have said I think he's in here for the long haul. Do you think, let's just 20 seconds each, do you guys think they will end up with another star before the end of this season? Alex?
I'm not sure about that. I would love to see it just because I'm not sure how Washington feels about how early they want to move on from Bradley Beal after it inevitably doesn't work when they're below 500. But I do think it's going to happen at some point, whether it's Beal or whether it's Victor Oladipo, like David Ramil said on the Heat Beat podcast, saying that the Pacers organization is worried that he'll lead to the Heat. So I do think it's going to happen at some point. But Pat Riley was playing defense there too. He was saying, "Oh, we're not worried about that right now." And
no, they're always worried about it. There's a plan after a plan after a plan.
Of course, but they're worried about tampering and all these and all the new rules and stuff. They early on.
That for sure. While Rich Paul's going to have
defense first
in the league. Defense first. It's a defense first organization. Oladipo's interesting, of course, because that's another Dwayne thing. Alf, 20 seconds.
I don't think it happens this year, but I do think it happens by All-Star break of next year in a big push to win a title in Jimmy's second year here. I just don't see where the opportunities are. I know Bradley Beal supposedly an opportunity, but I think it's probably going to be an even bigger opportunity next year for the Wizards when they really have the potential to lose their star player for nothing, and they really have no they really have no hope going forward. So. And then on the Heat Beat podcast, David Ramil brought up that Victor Oladipo wants to play in Miami.
Yeah,
they love Victor Oladipo. So I see that for next year. I don't see it happening this year. I see the Heat making a second round appearance, maybe an Eastern Conference Finals this year. I really doubt that, but maybe a second round appearance. And then next year, going after a guy like Oladipo or Beal in a trade for a guy that's disgruntled on two teams that I feel like are going to be really bad the next couple of years. I do not believe in the Pacers. They lost the Bogdanovich guy. I found out there's two of them.
on that note, we gotta go. That's it. Bye. Talk soon.